that now on the 4th of July, Greta Gerwig, the director or whatever, dubs it a humanist movie. They're so desperate to avoid that feminist label because they know it'll cost them $100 million at the box office. Think I'm kidding? Look at The Little Mermaid. Think I'm kidding? Look at all the other woke disasters that have hit Hollywood in the past 6 months alone. Hollywood knows that people are done with a lot of this, woke garbage and, messaging, and men are sick of seeing male characters be shells of their former self. We're watching it play out in real time with Indiana Jones, essentially a feminist film that makes Indiana Jones a tired old loser, broken shell of a man that's constantly cowering in a corner.
Hello everyone, once again from the dystopian hellscape of the United Kingdom. And on this channel we like to talk about a lot of political issues, but did you ever think the Barbie movie would be kind of like controversial politically? Now we have like the right wing in America freaking out about it being woke as usual. There is a transgender Barbie character in this film because it seems like the premise of the film is all the men in Barbie land are Ken and all the women are Barbies, and we have like, the main Barbie and Ken, Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie. But yeah, there's a whole like host of them, just like in real life. You can buy like loads of different Barbies. So they're crazy about that. Also, across the world, people are mad, which is really stupid. We're going to talk about this because it is funny as well, is that there's a map in one of the Barbie trailers, which is a map of the world. Looks like it was drawn by a kid. And now the film is actually getting banned in parts of Southeast Asia because allegedly it's a map designed to pander to China's claims on the South China Sea. And also in America, patriotic Americans are also saying Barbie promotes communism because of this map. Beyond like the stupid culture war stuff, I guess it all just shows you how like ridiculous patriotism is on like either side of the globe. Like we have countries like the Philippines and Vietnam actually has banned the movie. And I really like Vietnam. I lived there for 3 months recently. Great country and stuff. And also in my mind, this sort of stuff just proves why nationalism and communism really don't go together as like some sort of like dominant ideology, because it just leads to stupid stuff like this. Like, do you honestly think a map in the Barbie movie that looks like it was drawn by a kid is a threat to like the ruling party in Vietnam, or is grossly offensive? Like, do you not trust your citizens if it is like Chinese propaganda to decide that? I've lived in Vietnam and there is relative freedom of information. You can go on most websites and stuff. So it is really weird to me that they would ban this film. So we're going to talk about all of this today. And I never thought, this movie would be so controversial. I also do like it as a news story just to talk about like various different issues that it touches on, because that's fun for me. So yeah, we're going to be talking about all of this stuff today. And of course, this is the week that Barbie and Oppenheimer come out. And isn't it funny that you think the film that would be more controversial is Oppenheimer, but it turns out it's actually Barbie. So we're going to get into all of this today. Please like the video, and in the comments, I guess I would ask, what is like the dumbest movie controversy ever? Like, I've covered a lot of them on this channel. I guess Minions being anti-woke is a weird one, but there's plenty of them. So let me know down in the comments. Also, follow me on every social media at the Kavernacle, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Threads, on Blue Sky. Check me out on whatever platform you're on. Also, consider becoming a patron. I'm trying to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible. Benefits include access to the Discord server, access to my Switch friend code, and access to any exclusive content I've posted on the Patreon so far. And also check out my subreddit and check out the second channel. All of that stuff down in the description. So like I said, it is the week that Barbie and Oppenheimer are both coming out. I do want to see both of these movies at some point. Barbie mainly because I'm like a big Ryan Gosling fan, like most people. Blade Runner 2049 up there is one of my favorite movies. Then we have Oppenheimer, and I like Cillian Murphy. I like historic dramas. I like Chris Nolan films. Also got my boy Rami Malek in there. You guys know Mr. Robot is my favorite show of all time. It's like My profile picture is literally based on Mr. Robot. So yeah, it's a hard one for me. I'm probably not going to do Barbieheimer Day, see both of them. But yeah, let me know if you guys are excited for these movies too. But of course, it wouldn't be a modern release about anything without a conservative backlash, because the guys who accused the left of being snowflakes who needed safe spaces now cannot handle a movie based on a children's toy. So I got two things I want to read you, and the second one is just like it's like me reading something from 2015. Like, I actually can't believe the leaps in logic it's making to accuse the Barbie film of like hating men. So on Fox News, they're reporting Barbie film forgets core audience in favor of trans agenda and gender themes. Christian movie site warns. Don't take your daughter to Barbie. A Christian movie review site warned ahead of the film's release July 21st. The review criticized the film about the iconic doll of abandoning its core audience of families and little girls to instead focus on LGBTQ stories. The new Barbie movie forgets its core audience of families and children while catering to nostalgic adults and pushing lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender character stories. Furthermore, the movie was poorly made, with multiple premises, losing even the most die-hard fans, the scathing staff review penned piece began. I mean, are there really die-hard Barbie fans who would care about the quality of this movie? Like, I would say, if there are any hardcore Barbie fans, they would realize most Barbie movies were animated garbage, and having like two massive Hollywood celebrities in a movie about Barbie, if you're a die-hard Barbie fan, is probably a great thing for the Barbie brand. So I don't know what die-hard Barbie fans, if they're out there, would be mad about this. It goes on to say they had a built-in market and audience for the franchise, that they completely ignored, the story continued. Millions of families would have turned out to the theatres and purchased tickets, but instead, Mattel chose to cater to a small percentage of the population who has proven over and over to abandon the box office. However, members of the cast and crew have praised the film's left-leaning messages on gender in media interviews. Most certainly a feminist film. It's feminist in a way that includes everyone, says Greta Gerwig. Transgender actor Harry Neff, who plays Dr. Barbie, told Out magazine that the film had an empowering message about being transgender. As much as there's a celebration of femininity and being a girl in this movie, I think there's also an encouragement of letting go of the checklist we ascribe to living your life and being in your body, your way, or on your own terms. Star Simu Liu also praised the film for deconstructing heteronormative gender roles about toys and colours. I'm so glad that this movie exists because I think it puts the final nail in the coffin of a very heteronormative idea of what gender is and what is or is not gendered, he said. So Christian movie sites are really funny. Like, of course, that's Fox News running that story just for like propaganda reasons. But Christian movie sites, obviously in the UK, Christianity is very different, are so funny. I remember reading this for another video about that Daily Wire Gina Carano Western. And the Christian movie site, which is conservative, was telling people not to watch it because it was too violent. And I just find that so funny that, like, these Christians just cannot accept watching anything that might be contrary to their worldview. And obviously, it's really not surprising. It's so anti-LGBT. And yeah, I respect the cast saying it challenges, like, you know, heteronormative gender roles and stuff like that. But it's also, let's keep it real, it's just going to be a kid's teen movie. It's not going to be the most groundbreaking critique of femininity or gender roles and stuff like that. It just seems like a fun comedy. Like, I want to see it and stuff, but I don't think any diehard Barbie fans are going to be, you know, fleeing from the cinema when they hear this very surface level critique of, I don't know, gender roles and stuff like that. Now, there's only been a couple trailers released, and you have the statements from the cast. And of course, you expect Christians to be mad about basically anything, especially American Christians. But I found this article on a website called Cosmic Book News. Let me know if you guys have ever heard of this. I was convinced it was satire for a second. And also, upon learning it wasn't satire, I thought maybe it's AI generated. And then I looked at the actual site. It is real. Like, someone wrote this. And like I said, it's like stepping into 2015 or something. Like, this is the stuff they started saying about, like, The Last Jedi or Force Awakens about like Rey and stuff. So by Matt McGloin, Woke Margot Robbie Barbie movie hates men. Well, you knew this was coming. As with the release of the main trailer for the Barbie movie, the flick is woke as hell. Warner Brothers released a new trailer today which offers the plot of the movie for the first time, which sees Margot Robbie as Barbie making her way from her perfect Barbie land world to the real world, where the footage is all about how bad men are. Robbie's Barbie learns from Kate McKinnon's own version of Barbie that she'll need to travel to the real world to know the truth about the universe. Well, guess what the truth is? Yep. Men are bad. That's the message the flick is sending to little girls and, of course, everyone else. Seconds into entering the real world, Barbie gets slapped in the ass by a man and she immediately punches the man in the face. We have to assume she is roller skating at a beach in California where they filmed the movie. So do men go around slapping women in the ass in Cali all the time? I don't know. I don't live there. I've been there and I've never seen it happen. So yeah, guy who wrote this, because you've never seen it happen on like the one time you went to California, I'm sure nothing like that has ever happened on a Californian beach. A woman has never been harassed or assaulted on a beach before because you, incel nerd who wrote a piece about Barbie hating men, didn't personally see it. That's how we assess real issues. I wonder what you think of racism as well. Does it not exist because you've never seen it? White men are the bad guys. From there, Will Ferrell, who plays the CEO of Mattel, is revealed to be the bad guy of the movie as he wants to put Barbie back in her box where she belongs. And he is shown with a bunch of white dude corporate stooges. Cops are bad too. Barbie is also shown getting arrested by cops, with one cop laughing and smiling as Margot Robbie rolls her eyes. Ryan Gosling's Ken is misogynistic. Then a scene at the end of the trailer features Ryan Gosling talking to a female doctor, where Gosling's Ken wants to do an appendectomy. The doctor won't let him do the operation, but Gosling replies, "But I'm a man." The female doctor replies, "But not a doctor." Ken replies to that, assuming the doctor isn't a doctor because she's female, saying, "Can I talk to a doctor?" Ken then makes a couple of jokes, sees a male doctor and says, "There he is, doctor." Then the female doctor says, "Someone get security." The message the movie sends is that men, particularly white men, are chauvinistic, misogynistic, predators, and the bad guys. The men are made to look bad, and the women in the movie are all made to look good. The women look good at the expense of men. That's woke AF. Can you imagine the fragile white guy who wrote this, right? You're so fragile, you think a 2-minute trailer about Barbie is an attack on straight white men everywhere, because in the trailer it shows some negative interactions with men. And I think like the point of the movie is going to be, from like reading about it and the trailer, is that Barbie Land exists as this very like gendered place, right? Where like men have a certain role and women have a certain role, because that's what like children's dolls were created for in the first place. Like in the UK, I don't know if you had this in the US, you had Action Man. Action Man had like guns. He was always wearing military outfits and stuff like that. And that was for boys, where Barbie was for girls. And most of the time, old Barbie just was dressing up as a princess or doing very girly things. And it seems like that's what Barbie Land's going to be. And when these two enter the real world, Ken and Barbie, they just don't really understand how things work, because it's showing Ken is believing that women can't even be doctors because he grew up in this like Barbie Land, this patriarchal conservative society, I guess. And Margot Robbie just doesn't understand how, I don't know, social norms work, and she's not even used to being like sexualized or whatever. So if you see a movie that seems like it's designed for teenagers and even kids, and you think it's an attack on masculinity as a whole, white people and stuff like that, that says so much about you. Because I don't think any normal functioning person would watch that trailer and think, "Oh my god, Barbie hates white men." And I'm getting the vibe the whole movie is going to be about people like Ken, like learning to be good people, played by Ryan Gosling, like one of the most like high profile actors, and everyone likes him. Everyone's going to go see the movie because of him. I don't think this movie is going to hate white men because Will Ferrell is the bad guy or something like that. Like, it's just such an insane but also exhausting worldview, because you can start applying this to everything. Like, we're talking about Ryan Gosling, we're talking about Blade Runner. Is Blade Runner anti-white because Jared Leto is the bad guy? He's a white billionaire. But it's also such a surface level reading, because if you have a movie where the cops are like the main characters, that means the movie is endorsing the police or something. It just doesn't work like that, right? And again, it's just so stupid to get up in arms about a literal teenagers kids movie. And of course, like I'm saying, it's not just relegated to incel anti-SJWs, because Barbie has seemingly stepped in it for one little still of Barbie standing in front of a map of the real world. So I want to show you the map quick. So here it is. This is what has caused international drama with the Barbie movie, because you have a world map that looks like it was drawn by a child, and in Asia, you have a line. You see that dotted line on the right-hand side. And basically what everyone is interpreting it as the 9-dash line, which China uses to mark its claims on the South China Sea. So they're saying, this was put in the movie, just randomly, this dotted line, which I don't even think is meant to represent anything, to be honest. And they're saying it's basically designed to show that Barbie and Barbie Land agree with Chinese territorial claims to the South China Sea, which is just like insane, but also shows you on both sides, America, parts of Asia, how just ridiculous nationalism is. Just like how people see like wokeness, anti-white male propaganda where it doesn't exist. Anyone seeing that map and thinking, oh my god, Barbie movie pandering to China by a kid's drawing having a dotted line which might look like the Chinese claims to the South China Sea. But even if it was based on that, who cares at the same time? Like, it's stupid. I don't personally think it was based on that, but even if it was, like, you have to ban a movie for this one tiny little scene, and Vietnam is a place where, like, most movies get shown as well, so it's absolutely bizarre. But let's start with America, who want to cancel Barbie for being communist, says the New Republic. This is pretty funny, but also, again, shows you how stupid patriotism is, because in America, it's patriotic to just completely align with the US establishment's foreign policy goals, even if they are as far away as the South China Sea. Let's go into this. She's a Barbie comrade in a communist Barbie world, or so the Republicans say, who are doubling down on accusations that the upcoming Barbie movie is Chinese propaganda. In one scene before they leave Barbie Land, a rough hand-drawn map of the world can be seen in the background. The map includes the so-called 9-dash line, a much-disputed division of territory in the South China Sea. Ted Cruz is one of the first US lawmakers to weigh in, sarcastically tweeting, "I guess Barbie is made in China." Fox News commentators speculated outright whether Barbie was a communist or not, and more Republicans have joined them. While it may just be a Barbie map in a Barbie world, the fact that a cartoonish crayon-scribbled map seems to go out of its way to depict China's unlawful territorial claims illustrates the pressure that Hollywood is under to please CCP censors. Representative Mike Gallagher, who chairs the House Select Committee on China, told Fox News on Thursday. Rep. Jim Banks, who also serves on the Select Committee, accused the film's producers of endangering our national security. "We defeated the Soviet Union with Coke, Levi's, and James Dean. We need soft power superiority just as much as we need military superiority to win the new Cold War with China. And that's impossible with Hollywood working alongside the Chinese Communist Party," he said. Representative Mike Waltz accused Hollywood of hypocrisy and slammed Barbie as yet another disgraceful example of Hollywood being in the pocket of communist China. Senator Marsha Blackburn accused the movie of bending to Beijing. Representative Mark Green warned Hollywood that continuing to spread Chinese propaganda would cost the industry federal support. "In no world should American films be spreading CCP propaganda. I encourage all film studios to stand with integrity or lose the support from federal entities like the DoD. So hilarious about that outrage. They're basically saying, change your movies to suit the US government agenda. Like, we didn't win the Cold War by not pumping out films like Red Dawn. So if you want to help us win the Cold War against China, please don't include dotted lines on a map that looks like a child drew it in Barbie Land. Otherwise, we're going to lose the Cold War against China." But it's just amazing how they admit this, because I thought basically, you know, it is an open secret how much Hollywood works with the Department of Defense. But him threatening them, but saying, you know, if you want to continue working with the DoD, please conform to the US worldview. Please push out US propaganda for us, or have all collaboration taken away. Of course, companies that do that make the worst movies, like Marvel, for example. Oliver Stone got no help from the Department of Defense for Platoon because he was making a movie that like criticized the Vietnam War and stuff, right? Movies that don't have collaboration with the DoD are actually better, but it's just insane that they think that this movie is pushing pro-Chinese propaganda or pro-communist propaganda is what they think. But also, the South China Sea disputes are so complex anyway, but also it's not just communists in China who claim this territory. The Republic of China, Taiwan, also claims similar territory. Not so much the current government, who are more pro-independence, but many of the other parties, the nationalists and stuff, they also claim the same territory as the mainland. During the Cold War, Taiwan actually claimed even more territory than the mainland often used to do. It really has nothing to do with communism. It's basically just to do with nationalism and territorial disputes between Taiwan, China, Vietnam, the Philippines, a whole host of countries. And it's just like a really messy issue because it all basically comes from who settled historic territory and also just completely messed up by European colonialism and then Japanese colonialism after the First Sino-Japanese War, and of course during the Second Sino-Japanese War and World War II. So you just have this massive nationalist issue between all these countries, which really gets people going. But that just to me proves why nationalism is so ridiculous, because yeah, you can say, which the UN say, that China's claims don't have much basis in reality, or whatever. It's fine to agree with that, but to get so sensitive about it, you can be manipulated into just hating a random children's movie. Again, shows you why patriotism is so ridiculous. Also just shows you how patriotism is designed to manipulate you. And just like religion, what's good patriotism or bad patriotism just changes over the years. And you see that with the Republican Party at the moment, like America First. They think now not supporting groups against Russia is patriotism. But in the past, 30 years ago, if you were pro-Soviet Union, you weren't a patriot, but now you can be pro-Russia and a patriot. Same with the China stuff. If you were pro-China in like the 1980s or whatever, them helping undermine the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, then that's a good thing. But now if you're pro-China or even like, I don't care about China, you must be some sort of communist sympathizer. So that's why obviously like criticism of the American right, they're doing it for culture war reasons, but of course they are firmly in bed and in line with the American foreign policy establishment about, you know, the island chain policies against the containment of China and also working with their allies in the region to dispute this. Vietnam historically has a really complex relationship with China, getting on better during the communist era, but of course historically really not getting along. That's what plays into these disputes. And then you have countries like the Philippines and others who are also very mad. So on that note, let's talk about the reaction in Asia itself to the Barbie movie. Again, all based on this map, cartoon map, which is probably in the movie for either 5 seconds, and I would even wager might not even be in the movie because loads of stuff in trailers often gets cut. So let's look at this reporting by the Washington Post. What does the Barbie movie have to do with the South China Sea dispute? Hot Pink is having a moment as the world prepares for the release of the highly anticipated Barbie movie this month. The world, except Vietnam. Officials in the Southeast Asian nation have banned commercial screenings of the nostalgia-evoking movie starring Margot Robbie, Hanoi's Reason, Geopolitics. The head of Vietnam's Department of Cinema told the Washington Post that the cancellation of Barbie screenings was due to the film featuring a map that appears to depict China's disputed claims over the South China Sea. Barbie distributor Warner Bros. Discovery did not respond to requests for comments. For decades, the resource-rich waterway, which spans 1.4 million square miles and is traversed by roughly 1/3 of international shipping, has been contested between various Southeast Asian nations, Taiwan and China, all of which have overlapping claims to a collection of uninhabited rocks, reefs and islands. Despite international arbitration on some of these assertions, the South China Sea has been marked by militarization and no clear resolution. Barbie follows the doll's journey out of her fever dream fantasy land into the real world, but V. Kian Phan, Hanoi's cinema chief, also said it contains an offensive scene that shows the Cow Tongue Line, the Vietnamese name for the 9-dash line, Beijing's claim in the South China Sea, which violates Vietnam's border and constitutes prohibited content according to local law. He didn't specify what scene he was referring to, but a Barbie trailer shows a stylized map where a blob marked Asia has 8 dashes to the side. Vietnam is sending a message to the world that it strongly rejects China's arbitrary 9-dash line, and to movie production companies that they should get rid of controversial and sensitive elements. So in 2016, an international tribunal at The Hague ruled that China's 9-dash line was not valid under international law, Beijing boycotted the hearings and has ignored the tribunal's decision. So yeah, like I said, way too sensitive. And yeah, I lived in Vietnam. I like Vietnam. I think Vietnam is infinitely better off under the Communist Party's leadership than it was under like a Southern Vietnamese dictatorship. But just like with China, the sensitivity to just ridiculous stuff, I think, just undermines their credibility so much. And I've constantly said that I feel like nationalism doesn't really have a place in communism, while I still appreciate the history of these countries, because people often say Ho Chi Minh was a nationalist first, a communist second. And sometimes you need that nationalism in liberation movements because you need to offer people like some sort of like vision of the future. And in Vietnam's case, it was very helpful to use this nationalism to galvanize people to say, you know, we should create our own independent Vietnam, unify Vietnam, like it used to be before Chinese colonization and stuff. And that is very appealing to people when we can create a better society based on like socialism, communism, things like that. And, you know, it happened in China, happened in Cuba, happens in many places with successful revolutions. But then if you don't chill out on it, it's just going to make your society worse. So what people don't understand about China is the current form of nationalism in China isn't from Mao. So Mao is obviously quite famous for attacking what he saw as like revisionist Chinese history, which painted China in a bad light. And in that sense, he didn't really touch on the modern issues that Chinese nationalism is about today because he thought it was like embarrassing to China. So all this stuff with disputed territories with Japan and all these other countries, Mao didn't really talk about that too much because he thought like, well, this is embarrassing for the Chinese nation because we lost all this territory during the Sino-Japanese wars. So best just not to talk about them. Whereas when Deng Xiaoping came in, he's like, now let's get really mad about this. Japan, you owe us all this money, you owe us all this land for World War II, and you better do it. And then that became part of the Chinese Communist Party's propaganda, and it got increasingly worse as years have gone on, and that's why you have what it is today, where they are way more sensitive about these sorts of issues, where Mao's China was a bit different in regards to Chinese nationalism and stuff like that. But I feel like it just fundamentally undermines any sort of liberation movement because it can also lead to, which it does in a lot of countries that I've spoke about, xenophobia as well, and what the certain in-group is. I'm someone who like really does reject nationalism and patriotism. I think it's stupid. I think it undermines everything because most of these countries are massive melting pots, including the country I'm from, saying like you should be patriotic to this land which was, you know, created by the elite like 1,000 years ago. I have no loyalty to any country, especially a country like, you know, the UK in my case, which does nothing for me and doesn't promote good values at all. So what do I see in the United Kingdom which is worth defending? Why I don't like nationalism, because it makes you so easy to manipulate, where you can just go along with every stupid thing, like banning a kids movie because allegedly it shows disputed territory between you and China being owned by China or something like that. And I do understand in some circumstances, right? Like the legitimacy of the Vietnamese government is based on them being anti-imperialist against China, against the US, against France, and they feel like you can't threaten the credibility. So if something comes out which is allegedly showing something that threatens that, you just have to ban it, right? I understand that to some extent, and I understand that logic as well, and that's why China and Vietnam often do that. But like, you think there would be a limit where they're just like chill about it? Like, yeah, we understand why some people might see it like that, but it's the Barbie movie. No one is going to watch the Barbie movie and come out saying, do you know what I got from that movie? China does own all that territory and Vietnam should back down. If it was an actual political movie or a war movie about, I don't know, World War II, I wouldn't agree with banning the movie, but at the same time, yeah, like, fair enough, I guess. But yeah, can't you trust your own citizens, especially in a country like Vietnam where you can, you know, use social media? If they want to boycott this, they can do that, right? Why do you have to not allow them the ability to even watch it in the first place? Again, children's movie with a little cartoon map, which in my opinion probably didn't even have any goal to actually show these disputed territories. And I don't even think that line has anything to do with the South China Sea, to be honest. As that US politician said, soft power is important and soft power does influence people. And that's something I readily acknowledge. And that's why the mask was coming off that politician. He was saying about, you know, the DOD and things like that and how they won the Cold War, which isn't true, but US soft power does come a lot from Hollywood and how it normalizes a certain worldview. Even like Marvel movies really normalize a certain like neoliberal, even neocon at times, worldview where the US is a good for humanity. And the future of humanity relies on the US continuing to act how it acts and stuff like that. And even Marvel superheroes are literally state actors. Like Captain America and Falcon, like literally work for the US government now. Like that is something that is true. And like Top Gun, massively increased military recruitment, was worked on by the actual military, and it creates a worldview that the US are good. And, you know, people in Vietnam, bizarrely, have a pretty positive view of the United States because of cultural things as well. So I'm not undermining soft power. But like I was saying, there has to just come a time where you just relax about a child's movie, because in Vietnam, if they want to, all your citizens can not only go look at a real map that China would say justifies their claims, they can also go read like Chinese propaganda which talks about why Vietnam's claims are unjustifiable and theirs are right. So the Barbie movie will not change anyone's mind on the South China Sea dispute, but lots of other things will. By all accounts, all the controversy around this movie is just absolutely stupid, whether that is the woke stuff, communist stuff, or even the stuff about banning the film in certain Southeast Asian countries. Again, looks like a fun comedy, has some great actors involved. I think it would be a good movie, and I think it'd be a good thing if people in other countries could decide for themselves if they want to watch it or not. I don't think the political messaging will have anything to do with international relations. It would probably just be more like a liberal critique of, I don't know, gendered products and gendered toys, and how it fits into this very patriarchal view of men and women. And that's why some of these people are praising it for challenging that. Beyond that, don't see any political things, don't see any communism, and even if it was promoting Chinese territorial claims, that isn't even strictly speaking communism either. So that is my take on all of this stuff. Didn't think I'd ever make a video talking about Barbie in a very political way, but here we are. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.